So back on the campaign trail, Donald Trump said that if he had been president, the war in Ukraine would have never happened because Russia would have never invaded Ukraine if he had been president. And then he went on to say that he would end the war as president-elect. He said, the minute I'm elected, while I'm president-elect, I will bring that war to an end. He actually said he could do it in 24 hours. He would just call them all into a room, they would all reach a deal, and that would be the end of it. And that didn't happen. We waited 24 hours after the election. It didn't happen. We waited the entire time that he was president-elect. That didn't happen. And then he becomes president, and it doesn't happen. So it's another campaign promise broken, which really, so far, the only one that I can see that he's kept is when he said he would be dictator on day one and terminate the Constitution anytime he's seen fit. He's been spot on with that one. You got to hand it to him there. But as for the cheaper eggs, as for the lower grocery bills, as for the war in Ukraine coming to an end, he has completely dropped the ball on that one, and you'll never hear his followers ever hold him to account on that. And I'm going to talk more on that later, but right here I want to show you Marco Rubio just saying out loud, yeah, I mean, we may not be able to end this war. There may come a point where we just have to say, hey, we can't do nothing about it, and take our ball and go home. Take a look at this.
Yesterday, to sort of begin to talk about more specific outlines of what it might take to end a war, to try to figure out very soon, and I'm talking about a matter of days, not a matter of weeks, whether or not this is the war that can be ended. If it can, we're prepared to do whatever we can to facilitate that and make sure that it happens, that it ends in a durable and just way. If it's not possible, if we're so far apart that this is not going to happen, then I think the president's probably at a point where he's going to say, well, we're done.
Now, the most frustrating part about arguing with MAGA day in and day out is no matter how hard you try to hold their feet to the fire, they never accept responsibility, they never take accountability, and they never say, oh, wait a minute, Brando, or wait a minute, Midas Touch, or wait a minute, Brian Tyler Cohen or David Pakman, you guys might have had a point. Maybe Trump couldn't do everything that he said he was going to do. You'll never hear him say that. They didn't say it when the war didn't end once he got elected. They didn't say it when the war didn't end while he was president-elect. I was sitting there saying, hey, wasn't that war supposed to end? Crickets on their side. Well, he ain't in there yet, man. He ain't made it in there yet. Well, no, but he said he would do it while he was president-elect. Well, give him time, man. And then he gets in, well, give him time, man. It'll happen. And then he sits there next to Zelensky and says, you don't have the cards. And they sit there and treat Zelensky like he's the villain in the story when his country is the one that got invaded. That's one of the most sickening moments that I've ever seen in American history to this day. That meeting with Zelensky will always go down in my mind as just one of the most sickening moments, and a moment that just truly, like January 6th, that just truly defined MAGA for who they truly are. But there's never going to be that moment where we hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, he got it wrong, and they take responsibility. And I've never ever seen a time like that on either side of the aisle, really. Because there are people out there in my lifetime, and like I said so many times on the channel, I've talked politics since I was a kid. Me and my family talks about it like it's a sporting event. As a matter of fact, me and my family don't watch sports. We don't follow it, we don't keep up with it. We follow politics and always have. And in my lifetime, I had uncles who was on both sides of the political aisle. I had some uncles that was Republicans, most of them were, and I had a Democratic uncle. They would sit and argue at Thanksgiving, and they would point out things that the other side promised to do and didn't. And I remember a time when Republicans could be told, hey, your guy didn't keep a promise, and they would at least say, well, yeah, you're right about that. I wished he had. He sure as hell didn't. But now we're to a point with MAGA where they will never, ever say, yep, you got us. Yep, he was wrong. Yep, he didn't fulfill that promise. As a matter of fact, they will sit and tell you that he fulfilled everything. And then they get mad when we say it's a cult. But to blindly believe something and blindly follow after someone and never hold that person to any account, that person can do no wrong and can say no wrong, there's no other way to describe it, but it's straight up cult-like behavior. That's it. And I wish I could put a different spin on it. Believe it or not, I actually don't like saying that. I don't like calling them that. But to hear them sit and tell me that he would end it as president-elect, and that he would end it on day one, and that he would bring down prices on day one, and he was supposed to do it all, by the way, on day one. Then it was, well, give him time, man. And now it's like, well, he can't do everything. Biden messed it up so bad that he can't do it. And Zelensky don't have the cards. So there has to come a point where we just give up and go home on this one. And I can already see him now being like, yeah, let's just go ahead and throw in the towel on that one. But if you voted for the guy because you thought he was smart enough to do everything on day one and then he didn't, then either A, you never really believed him to start with, or B, you just worship him to no end and nothing he can do is ever going to be a deal breaker for you. But I know so many people on our side of the aisle, on the Democratic side of the aisle, progressives, liberals, whatever you want to call us, man, getting us together on something's like trying to herd a bunch of house cats. It's one of the most impossible things I've ever tried to do, is get people on our side to get along and get people on our side to agree with everything. That's because we're not in a cult and we're free thinkers and we think for ourselves. But just to get people behind one candidate or two candidates, I have brought so many clips here on the channel of people that I think are saying good things, and every time I do, I have a progressive, and I'm not knocking you for it. Let me preface by saying I'm not criticizing you for doing this. I'm just making a point. If I shared a clip right now of Andy Beshear, and I said, hey, this guy's won in blood red Kentucky, look how good he's done, there would be someone on the left chime in and go, yeah, but how did he do it? I bet it's because he straddled the fence. I bet it's because he's an old school Democrat. I bet he ain't liberal enough. That's why he was able to do it. And then if you show somebody Bernie or AOC and you say, hey, look here, AOC's really connecting with the crowd, there's always someone that chimes in to go, yeah, but she's too far to the left. She'll never make it. So on our side of the aisle, we've always had trouble getting everybody to get together and get behind something. On the other side of the aisle, they will get behind a guy who gives nothing but broken promises, and they will follow it. And as he breaks the promises, they're cool with it. They're okay. They just sit back and let it happen. And they make excuses and they shrug it off like it's nothing, or they'll deny they ever said it. They truly live in an alternate reality. They live in a fantasy land. And sometimes it's envious. Sometimes I look over at it and I go, dang, just to be walking through this world thinking everything was just hunky-dory, instead of realizing what we're up against. Every day I wake up and realize what we're up against. And every day, no matter what I have planned for that day, no matter if I've set videos to come out so I could take a day with the family and do things, or go watch WrestleMania with my buddies later, whatever the case may be, I'm always still trying to come down off of what I go through mentally doing this. Even when I lay down at night and I'm trying to wind down, I'm still trying to wind down like, okay, let me come down off this cloud into a world that's on fire and burning down around me. So, yeah, sometimes the ones that just sits back, yeah, man, hell, eggs are high, but man, he can't do it. Sometimes it's almost envious. So sometimes I say to myself, man, it must be nice to live in a world where you just don't see the seriousness of anything and you just are oblivious to everything going on. But then again, I could never be that person. I just couldn't. Because I cannot stand to have my intelligence insulted. So there's no way that I could ever sit there and go along with that. In order to sit there and go along with that, you have to be just a sucker for punishment. You have to just want it. You have to want to be abused and mistreated to be in MAGA. You have to want to be lied to and manipulated. That's all I can figure. I'm really not trying to bring down the room, but damn. To be in that mindset, it might be a joyful place for them to be, but the rest of the world is looking over at them and realizing just how miserable it looks and is. And their willful ignorance and their glee at this shit is causing so much pain and suffering for the entire country, and everything that our founding fathers ever put in place and everything that was ever fought for is just slowly dwindling in front of us. But we'll keep fighting the good fight, and we'll keep standing up to the tyranny, and we will never shut up. And that's one thing I want everybody to know. No matter what happens in this world, as long as there's a breath in Tennessee Brando, I'll be sitting here calling it out. I don't care if I'm the only one sitting on the island by myself, just shouting into the wind. I'll do it until the last breath leaves my body. I'm hell bent on doing it for the rest of my life. So I'm here and I ain't going nowhere, and I appreciate you for being here. We're cruising toward 1 million subscribers, and I do believe we can get there before the end of the year. So let's make it happen. If you haven't hit the button, hit it. Doesn't cost anything to do so. If you would ever want to contribute a few bucks a month, there's members only here on YouTube. I also have a Patreon that's linked in the description of this video. And I'm writing over on Substack if you prefer to just sit and read. Also, I have the audio of my live streams now up on Spotify for those of you that would rather listen while you're driving back and forth to work. So I'll keep doing it. I'll keep shouting it out. I will keep holding their feet to the fire. And thank you for standing alongside me doing it.